Hello, and welcome to 3 a.m. Conversations. I am your host, Jacqueline Smith. And on today's episode, just to continue with talking about great women and the support that they gave their husbands in order to do amazing things, just to continue that conversation, I've decided to highlight another amazing woman that I had the opportunity to read her latest book about her life, and I thought that this was an appropriate story for this series to continue. So I am talking about the woman that people might not know who she is and may not recognize her name, but she is someone who helped co-found a media conglomerate that you may be familiar with. So I am talking about none other than Sheila Johnson, the Sheila Johnson, America's first Black female billionaire with a B. Now, most people think that Oprah is is the first female Black billionaire, but no, it is none other than Miss Johnson. And Miss Johnson, if you recognize her last name, was married to Bob Johnson, and together they founded BET, Black Entertainment Television. So this story was, I don't know, I would have to say that for some reason I am drawn to Sheila, and that's why, I decided to purchase her book. I can't explain why I was drawn to her story, but I was, and I found some very profound moments in her book, and I don't want to share them all because, of course, I want to encourage you to go read for yourself her story. But I'm going to take a little different spin on how I convey her story as opposed to the two other women that I highlighted in previous episodes, because those women were able to support their men and have successful marriages. Unfortunately, or fortunately for her, Sheila's marriage did not work out to Bob Johnson, but her relationship cultivated a network that has had such a profound impact on our community and how we see ourselves in entertainment. And it set a precedence for other networks that highlight Black culture, Black creativity, that really focus and highlight our stories, to let companies know that people want to hear or see themselves on television. People want to hear and see themselves in roles and in situations and in stories that are relatable to their life. And I'm proud to say at one point BET did serve the community in that way, to highlight content that we can be proud of. So enough about that. Let's really delve into Sheila's story. So Sheila comes from a Black doctor as a father, a Black woman accountant as a mother, and she was able to have what she calls like a pretty, balanced lifestyle. Her mother, she said, was always one who entertained, and her house was always full of people, full of energy, full of life. And that's something that Sheila adored and loved until one day her father just up and decided to leave her family. And that ultimately devastated her mother because, of course, having a dual income household, even in this day and age, is something that can be beneficial. And it just financially crushed her lifestyle and how she was raised. But one thing I really want to highlight with Sheila in her youth is that she was very diligent and disciplined. And I say that because I think she noted when she was in elementary school, she had the opportunity to learn how to play the violin. And she just fell in love with it, so much so that in the middle of the night, she would get up and play the violin while everyone is sleeping, not to disturb anyone. But she played until she was good, and her parents noted how dedicated she was to her violin and started to pour into her. And that support and reassurance ultimately gave her the confidence to want to be first chair in her in the orchestra for her school and in her state, and she was able to accomplish those things. And I think that's just a testament of, or foreshadowing rather, the woman that had a vision, had a certain level of determination in order to accomplish her dream and her goals. And I think that's important to note because, in life you never know what you're going to face, but there's always certain instances or moments from your childhood that you can really dig into, good or bad. But for the most part, they should be good memories that highlight and show you what you are capable of when you put your mind to it. So she received great notoriety in her state. She was able to go to the University of Illinois on a music scholarship that her mentor and music teacher helped her to achieve. And it was just like, that's another thing I want to highlight as well. In her life, she had these people around her that always advocated for her and supported her dream and believed in her. But in retrospect, I look at them more as like her guardian angels, like people that were purposely placed in her life to protect her greatness, to protect her, what was to come for her in her life. She may not have seen it down the road, but I feel like people saw something in her, greatness in her, that they wanted to be attached to. And that actually works and has dual meaning, because there were some people that attached to her in a positive way, such as her music teacher and ultimate mentor, and other people that were attached to her in a not so positive way, which is her husband. Now, again, this is going a little against what I have spoken about in previous episodes of my podcast, and how the women were supportive of their husbands. And Sheila was supportive of her husband, but her husband wasn't necessarily supportive of her. So I want to talk about it from both perspectives, because there should be awareness and certain red flags that women who are just great, who are talented, who are special, who have, just hidden talents that they may not be aware of, how people can see that. You may not be aware of it, but there are people that can sense and see that there is something greater in you. And like I said, they can either support that, or they can manipulate and undermine your greatness. So the latter is what happened to Sheila. So she, at the University of Illinois, meets up with Bob Johnson, and from the moment that she said they met, she said he really attached himself to her, going to parties with her, just introducing her to everyone, constantly by her side. And Sheila was a freshman, and I believe at the time Bob was either a senior or a junior, but he was older than her. So during the course of her college career, she said Bob is the only man that she was seeing. She wasn't allowed to date. She didn't see anyone else. Her primary focus was on Bob. And ultimately, he did graduate, and he went on to pursue, I believe, a master's program at Princeton. And she was then left to really explore her collegiate life and meet new people and make new connections. But when he got wind of this, he immediately came back to Illinois and just pretty much put her back in her cage, cut off all the communications that she had made with these other men, told her to end those relationships, that he was her man, and that was the end of that. And I think when he did those things, it made her feel like he was really in love with her, and it made her feel like, oh my gosh, he's traveling all this way just to be with me, to reassure me that he's the one for me. Whereas those were all glaring red flags that he was a control freak, he was a manipulator, and he just really wanted her sheltered and controllable. And that ultimately led to her just falling for him because she thought it was love. She thought it was love. And they ended up getting married. I believe she said she got married, oh my gosh, as soon as she graduated college, even before she walked across the stage. In fact, he wouldn't even allow her to walk across the stage. She was able to graduate, and they ended up moving to New Jersey. And I think about that because those were moments. Anyone that has been to college knows that it's not for the faint of heart. College is very grueling in many different ways, not just academically, but it's a chance for you to really grow into the adult you will ultimately become. And those things are hard. Certain conversations that you have with yourself and with others, and it's just growing pains, I would say. So college is just a very important time, I believe, in every young adult's life to really learn and really focus on not only, like I said, their academics and whatever the course of study is, but also who they are as a person and their interest and how they want to ultimately be seen and perceived as adults. And I just felt like reading her story that Bob stunted that for Sheila. He stunted that growth for her, that emotional growth that she needed at that time, before being rushed into marriage, and now having to figure out who she is as a woman while trying to cater to the needs of her husband. And that ultimately plays a role because within that relationship, she was verbally and emotionally abused. She was talked down to. She was told that, she was all that, and how nothing that she did would work, and how people don't like her. And it's just that narrative that plays in her head from the person that is supposed to love her and show up for her. How ultimately I felt like she wanted to not prove him wrong, but I felt like she wanted to please and appease him so that he could be proud of her. I think he wanted his approval, and I know that stems from her, the abandonment of her father, that ultimately showed up in her relationship. But she wanted his approval. She loved him dearly, and she was determined to be a good wife to him against everyone's disapproval of her decision to marry him. But she wanted to be a good wife, and she was determined to stick it out in the relationship. And one day Bob comes home. He has this new idea that he wants to start a cable network, and she's like all in. Again, this is going back to the other previous stories that I spoke about, where the man is having the vision and being a part of a family unit. You have to support your husband's vision. If that is ultimately where he wants to go as his wife, you are to support him in the best way that you know how, without compromising yourself or your morals, but supporting his dream. And that's exactly what Sheila did. When he came home with this idea, she helped him with building out the business plan and the finances, and being the supportive wife, and knowing that wherever this leads, I'm going to support my husband. And she was there from inception and just watched BET blossom and bloom into this amazing venture. And it was her that, ultimately, before BET was on strong financial standing, they were struggling and they needed a cash injection before they were, even about to start. And, as I said, Sheila was very proficient in playing the violin, so much so that her parents invested $15,000 to get her this exclusive violin. And back then, to pay, even today, $15,000 for an instrument is, to me, astronomical. I do not play an instrument, although the violin is one of my favorite. And if I had the choice, I would have loved to play the violin. But with her, it represented who she was. It represented her childhood. It represented something that she could be proud of, something that she was celebrated for and awarded in her childhood and even in her early adulthood. And even the ultimate vehicle that led her to a full ride to the University of Illinois. And she sacrificed that for his dream. That's big. I have to pause on that right there, because now just me saying that, it really brings into focus what that sacrifice meant for her to do that. It's like her literally pouring herself, who she is, her accolades and her accomplishments into, his dream. And it was just the right amount of money to get BET off the ground and running. And once it caught on, it just started to grow like wildfire. And, ultimately it became profitable and successful. And, again, not to give away too much in the book, her husband sort of did not allow her to play the part of co-founder. And I say that because, BT, the BT that I know, was always synonymous with Bob Johnson. I thought he founded that company himself, that he was, the trailblazer, that this was all done by him. I did not know anything about Sheila's involvement in BET and how much she, aided in its success. And that's just a testament of how she was treated within the relationship, that she was always played in the background. He didn't want to be seen with her. He would talk about how she looked and how she wasn't appropriate to be attending the parties that he was going to, just really, really beating on her emotionally, berating her, honestly. And it really crippled her self-esteem. And she was able to do amazing things. Like, as I was reading the story, I found out that she is actually the creator of Teen Summit. The one thing of BET that I remember as a child that I was really proud of, that I was an advocate for and an avid watcher of Teen Summit. I mean, to see Ananda Lewis there talking to Black and brown kids that looked like me, talking about issues that plagued them in their communities and having an open dialogue about it. It was truly a platform and an opportunity for the young kids of Black America to finally have a voice which I think is crucial. Even to this day, there's really nothing that we have that can really express how the youth of today are feeling. And I do not include TikTok or Instagram in that, but an actual show platform that just focuses on the Black experience from a young adult perspective. We do not have that. And it was remarkable of Sheila to think about that, because it was programming that was necessary and needed, but also ahead of its time. That the true focus and the true leadership should always be with the future adults of America. And it was brilliant of her to bring that idea to BET, which it garnered like many accolades, many I'm gonna butcher this, I'm sorry. NAACP, yes, yes, but it was critically acclaimed. It was an excellent show, and that served a monumental purpose. But Bob was the one that ultimately shut it down, because it wasn't something that he created, and it wasn't something that he saw value in. And ultimately, I felt like he did it just despite Sheila's involvement in it, and he shut it down. And I feel like throughout this book, something else that I've noticed is that whatever Sheila touched turned into gold. She put her hands on the violin. She ended up being, first chair in her state, getting a 4-year full ride for college, helped co-found BET, created Teen Summit, received numerous awards and accolades and accomplishments. She then, eventually, later on down the line, she divorces Bill, gets a very hefty settlement that sets her up very well financially, and she sets her sights on opening a resort, and she opens this phenomenal diamond level resort in Middleburg, Virginia, and it just turns into this cultural phenomenon and a place to be seen, and it's a wonderful attraction. And that did not come without its own trials and tribulations that she discussed in the book, but it ended up being successful when others thought it would fail. And one thing that I can say with reading this story about Sheila is that she was insecure about her talents and her capabilities, but that never stopped her from pursuing what felt natural to her, which is her passions. Even though she doubted herself at certain points, that never stopped her from moving and progressing forward. And I think that's a testament to any woman out there that is, insecure about what it is what value they have inside, who may not see themselves as valuable or capable, whether that is in a relationship, whether that is amongst family, whether that's amongst friends, whether that's professionally. You may not see yourself as capable or what value can you bring to someone's life and their situation. You may see yourself as, more of a burden than a benefit to someone, but I implore you to not let that stop you from still going after what you think, what you desire, what you want to achieve, what you want to accomplish. Because if anything, this book is a testament of a woman who wasn't completely sure of herself, but she still decided to believe in herself when others clearly didn't. The man that she was ultimately married to didn't believe in her. And somewhere deep down, she had to muster up that strength to know that, yes, I can. I am able, I am capable, I am competent enough to run my own company. I am competent enough to know that I can open up a line of luxury hotels, a string of luxury hotels this woman owns, of just, it's amazing. It's amazing. And it's just a testament to never let anyone put you in a box. Never let anyone shorten or narrow the expansion of your dreams, and never to let anyone stunt your growth. I believe this woman has gone through a lot mentally and emotionally, like many of us have gone through in our lives and our certain experiences. But this book is a true testament that when you dream, don't take your foot off the gas. Keep going. Keep pursuing. Keep asking questions. Keep pushing. And even I can say, not only did she do that in her professional life, but she also did so in her marriage. She pushed and she tried and she supported, and she was still there being an active partner until it came to the point where emotionally she couldn't take it anymore. Her husband had been openly dating and seeing other women. I can't even say dating, but being intimate with other women right under her nose, in her own backyard, in the company that she founded. And it just became so devastating for her emotionally that she had to let go, because it was literally breaking her heart. And she said that the only image that she can see in her head was her mother on the floor of her apartment as a child, going through a mental breakdown after her father left their family. And that is what ultimately gave her the strength and the ammunition to say, not me. I have to know that I'm stronger and capable outside of this relationship that I, am being tormented by. And that, I know, takes a lot of courage. And for those of you that are in relationships that are not as satisfying, not as supportive, that is abusive, whether it is actual physical abuse, whether it's emotional abuse, whether it's manipulation, whether it's verbal abuse, you have to know that you are worthy and you are worth more, and worth more than what someone says or does to you, that your value is not how other people perceive you, but how you perceive yourself. And I encourage women who have self-doubt to pick up this book, because it will show you what God has in store for you. And that's another point that I want to make, is that life, you don't know what God has in store for you, because you are just going through life. You are going through the motions. You are just trying to make it every day, but you don't see what God has on the other side for you. You don't know. So you pray and you hope and you wait in anticipation, and you have faith that God will deliver on his promises. God says, I came so you can have hope in a future. And reading this woman's story from start to finish, the one question that I had in my mind was it worth it? Now that you have remarried, you have successful businesses, you have, wonderful children who have made great strides professionally. Was it worth the torment of that emotionally abusive relationship that you had to endure? I believe they were married for 30 plus years. Whew. That is strength in itself, to endure that, not even knowing what God had on the other side for you. But because you were so determined to make your marriage work, you endured. Now, this is not everyone's story, because not everyone's story ends up this beautifully. Some people's story ends up with, them passing away at the hands of their, abusive spouses. So it's not, all roses at all times. But again, you have to look at the man's fruit. What is he bearing? What is he providing? What is he growing? What is he nurturing? Is he nurturing drama? Is he nurturing violence? Is he nurturing manipulation? Is he nurturing other relationships outside of yours? What is his true passion? And how do you fit in his world? How does he, value you and see you? I think those are all things that, you should take notice of. And I think that Sheila, that's another thing. Sheila was told, because at this point BT was, very profitable, and they were seen as a power couple in the DC social circles, and people knew about her husband's infidelity, and the women would come up to her and say, you are a black power couple, you cannot break up. You have to stay with him just because of what you represent to our community. And I resent that, because how can I pour into my community when I am broken? It doesn't work. How can I say to women and encourage women and encourage my black men and my black women when I don't feel that at home? It's fake. It doesn't come, it's not natural. And it's a false identity that Sheila did not want to perpetrate. She did not want to perpetuate that narrative. And she knew she had to do something. Other people were seeing it now, so she knew she was not delusional. And it's one thing that you can cover up and hide certain things that are being done in your household. It's another thing where it's outside of your household and you have no control over it. So I am grateful that Sheila knew that it would be to her detriment to stay in this relationship, but she now has the opportunity to know that she left this relationship knowing that she gave her all. She gave her all. She wasn't the one that stepped out on the relationship. She stayed true to her position as a wife. She supported her husband, and her husband failed her miserably over and over and over again. And she held on as long as she could until she knew it was time to throw in the towel. So my hat goes off to Sheila Johnson during this Women's History Month and what she was able to accomplish as a divorcee, and the courage and the strength and the know-how to still go on, even though she wasn't fully confident. And I think that's a great message to leave this episode on, is that, you know, even with me in this podcast and what I am trying to build with Baycon and 3 a.m. conversations, is that yes, there are moments where I too feel insecure about what I am doing and where this is going and who will listen to this podcast. But I cannot get out of my head the saying to keep going, keep pursuing, keep enduring, because you never know what is on the other side. And the old saying goes, you never know until you try. So this is a message to all the women out there and to the men, to my ladies: endure, continue, but don't let it be at the detriment of your morals and your emotional being. Stand up for yourself. Be smart about your decisions, and know that you are worthy because you are a child of God. And to my men, if you know you have a strong woman, an intelligent woman, a smart, capable, and beautiful woman, encourage that. Support her, because in turn, she will support you. She will be the wife, the girlfriend that you desire her to be if you pour into her the right way, and not by manipulation and coercion and physical or emotional abuse. If you feel like you are not worthy of that woman, do some self-reflection and figure out how you can get up to her level without trying to bring her down to yours. But if you know you are that smart, capable man, have confidence in knowing that this woman has chosen to be with you. So there's no need, no room for jealousy or envy, but support her. And ultimately, you guys will grow and have a fruitful relationship. So I'll leave it there. And I need someone else, one more woman to talk about for Women's History Month, because it's coming to a close, and I haven't quite decided yet. So I look forward to seeing who God places on my heart and in my mind on who to discuss next. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this story about Sheila, and I really encourage you to go pick up her book. I just realized I didn't even give you guys the title. The title is Walk Through Fire, a memoir of love, loss, and triumph. And it is all those things and more. So I encourage you to go read a book, y'all. And I would be happy to know what you think. So yeah, leave me a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this has been 3 a.m. Conversations, and I am your host, Jacqueline Smith. Until next time.